Alright, so something I never really talked about is that I'm actually really into dirt biking and motorcycles and stuff, right? Like, I actually have a street legal dirt bike myself. Dirt biking's pretty common, and for good reason. It's freaking fun. What's not fun, though, is finding a dirt bike and buying one. Like, I swear, people have no idea what they're doing when they're buying a bike. Like, I feel like they walk into the dealership, put a blindfold on, and point. Like, honestly, it's retarded. So today I'm going to be discussing some things that you should keep in mind when you're buying a dirt bike. But first of all, let's get the obvious thing out of the way. Companies. Everyone thinks that one company makes the best bike, and if you get any other brand, it's going to fall apart on day one. Idiot. It doesn't matter. You want to know what the brand to pick? What's your favorite primary color? Yellow? Blue? Red? Red, you say? Honda. Blue? Yamaha. Yellow? Suzuki. John, what about Kawasaki? No. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using Hondas, just because if I was going to talk about all three companies, it would take way too long. You can find the equivalent model for the bike for most companies. Just they'll have a different name, but it's the same bike. Now at this point, you need to decide exactly what your purpose of this bike is going to be. Cut the crap. None of this, oh, maybe one day I might. No. Right now, you need to address your skill level, your personal size, and exactly what you need this bike for. If you don't want to do that, leave now, because everything else that I say pertains to this information. So first of all, you need to decide, will I be riding this bike on the road, or will I be taking it on trails? Now that's important. Now, I don't know how the rules are where you live, since I have no idea where you are, but where I live, you either get a green plated bike or a blue plated bike. Green plated bikes, you can only drive on trails, and blue plated bikes, you can drive on both trails and roads. Blue plated bikes are much more expensive and much harder to find than green plated bikes, so unless you're 100% sure that you're going to be using it on roads, don't bother because it's just not worth it for you. Decided yet? Good, let's move on. So once you've decided its purpose, you need to assess yourself as a rider. What exactly can you handle? Are you A, a child under the age of 12, B, anyone over 13 who's a learner, or C, anyone over 13 who is experienced with bikes? Are you a child under 12? Easy, buy a 10-year-old XR100 or XR200 depending on your physical size. For other models, it might be a 125 or 230, whatever the name, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's the same bike. Do not buy a 100 or a 125 if you are over the age of 10. Because you look like a freaking clown on a tricycle. I see these idiots all the time ripping up and down on their 125s, thinking they're so cool. You're not cool. You look like an asshat. Just a side note, some of you may be objecting to the fact that my recommendation is a 10-year-old bike. The reason to this is because you or your child or whoever this is for, you're going to outgrow it in 2 years anyways, so don't be foolish and buy a brand new CRF 125 or 230 or whatever for $4,000. Be reasonable. Get an older bike for cheap. It's the same bike they make nowadays anyways with a different graphics kit. Use it for 2 years and then sell it. And then you can think about buying a better bike. And don't freaking ride it around the neighborhood illegally at 2 a.m. without a muffler. You're not cool. B, a teenage or anyone over the age of 13 learner. So at this point, you need to start thinking about some other variables. Things get a little more complicated. What do you want to spend? And is this going on the road? If you want to spend under $3,000 and you don't want it on the road, congratulations, you get the cheapest deal. Buy 1996 to 2005 XR250R. Ideally from 2000 to 2005 because they redesigned it completely and modernized it, but it doesn't really matter. You can pick one up for around $2,500, which is decent. The bike's very simple with no electric start, just a kickstart, and also no battery. My buddy Luke's actually got one. He was in a few videos. He got a 2003, and it starts first kick, very easy to deal with, while still having loads of power, and it's just overall a great bike. Don't worry about it not having electric start. It doesn't matter. It's not hard to start. If you want to spend under $3,000 and you want it on the road, you're looking at a 1991 to 2006 XR250L. So these bikes had 3 generations, 1991 to 1995, 1996 to 1999, and 2000 to 2006. You're looking at similar features to the R model, like I talked about before, except this one has slightly less power, and it does have a battery, and it comes with a key, speedometer, and display unit connected to the speedometer, and that shows you if you're neutral, which is like really handy, and like some other stuff, like if your turn signals are on or something. It also has a much heavier duty brake light for road use. I actually have a 1991 XR250L myself, and it's like a fantastic bike. Same as the R, starts on first kick, so I don't care that it doesn't have an electric start. You don't really need one if it's easy to kick over. If you want to spend over $3,000 and you don't want it on the road, you're going to want to get a CRF 250X. Doesn't matter which year, but ideally older if you don't want to get raped by the price tag. The bike does have an electric start and a kickstart, which is nice. The e-start also means that it comes with a battery. Do not buy a CRF 250R. I see that look in your eye. Don't do it. It is not the same bike. It's a monster to kick over, doesn't have an electric start, and it's finicky like you wouldn't believe. It's a race bike, and it needs to be treated as such, with constant maintenance. Alright, now if you want to spend over $3,000 and you want it on the road, you're either going to want to get a street legal CRF 250X or a CRF 250L. The reason I say this is because for some reason they made the CRF 250L like super heavy, and that turns some people off of the bike, myself included. So if you don't care about the weight and you want something that's more road oriented, go for the CRF 250L. If you do care about the weight and you want something lighter, it may take a while, but eventually you'll find a CRF 250X that has a green registration slip and you're able to blue plate it. The CRF 250X is quite a bit lighter, and it has both a kickstart and electric start, which is nice in case your electric starter fails for some reason. Alright, so now let's talk about option C. Here is the big bikes, the bikes that really go fast. But generally speaking, they're harder to control, and especially they're harder to learn on. Now I'm going to split this into the same 4 sections as the last option. Cheap dirt, cheap road, expensive dirt, and expensive road. It's pretty simple this time though. If you want to spend under $3,500 and you don't want to go on the road, go for an older CRF 450X, or maybe an XR 400 or something. The CRF 450X has both kick and electric start, with loads of power that will keep you from boredom for a long time. Although I don't know if I would want to be kicking it over. It also weighs only 20 pounds more than the CRF 250X, which is really not a lot. If you want to spend over $3,500, just buy the same bike but newer, same as road bikes. If you want a street dirt bike, go for either a street legal CRF 450X or an XR 650L. Depending on how much you want to spend, either get an older or newer model. If you're going to go for the XR 650 though, might I recommend saving some cash and just buying an older one? They've literally made the same bike since the early 90s, with slight color changes every few years. Like, you can buy a 1994 and still buy brand new parts for it from 2016 models. It's hilarious. So don't be an idiot and buy a 2016 for $7,000 when you can literally buy the exact same bike for a quarter of the price. No, hold on. Let's get real for a second. Come closer. We both know that you just put yourself in one group higher than you really should be. Yeah, I'm not a beginner. I'm buying a 450. Listen. Don't overestimate yourself. If you do, you're gonna regret it when you're trying to sell it in a month trying to buy a 250 instead. Just skip that whole process and buy a 250 now, if that's what you feel comfortable with. Well, I hope you liked my video on bikes. I know I've never done anything like this before. But if you did like it, leave a like and subscribe, and if you have any questions or just have something to say, leave a comment below and I'll definitely answer you. Definitely.